The average male body hair distributions. This is probably the most disgusting map I've ever started a video with. So as you can see, certain parts of the world are going to have more hair than others. Specifically when comparing Europe to Asia or sub-Saharan Africa as well. Even in North America, we don't have quite as much going on as they do in other parts of the world. I find South America among the most fascinating though. This is really different depending on the regions of the continent. Like, why does Peru have so little? As well as Brazil has parts where they have no body hair, and then others they have a little bit, but nothing compared to like Argentina and Chile. I'm just extremely disturbed by this weird pepperoni right here. I wonder how much this map takes into account migration and colonization history, because like, yeah, this might be extremely disturbing and could possibly traumatize you for life, but at least it's educational. Now this can probably teach us a little bit about the whole hair distribution thing. Countries with mono-ethnicity, or places where 85% of the population is a single ethnic group. The only spot in the entire Western Hemisphere is Haiti, which I guess shouldn't be a surprise considering all the colonization and stuff that took place here. Africa doesn't have too many either. Some outliers are Somalia, Egypt, Algeria. Most of Western Europe isn't mono-ethnic, but a lot of the eastern side is. Or just like a lot of places near the Mediterranean in general. Pretty much all the nations by the Caucasus Mountains have over 85%, but the real region of Earth that's just destroying it is Eastern Asia. Both the Koreas, Japan, China, Mongolia, and a lot of Southeast Asia. There are so many factors that contribute why exactly things are like this. I don't even know if I can begin to scratch the surface. Flat Map Slander, let's go. The center point is Paris, France, and there's a 5,000 kilometer radius around that. So you would think this would be a perfect circle, but it is not due to the way we project flat maps. Now, obviously, if this was on a globe, this would not be as weird, but it is very strange, which is why it could be a little misleading seeing that Greenland and these parts of Canada aren't that giant. But I've talked about this so much, I think we all know flat maps bad. Prison populations of developed countries, yes, the USA is far and away ahead of everybody else. You pretty much have to combine everybody else and you still don't even get to half. But I'm curious if there are some outliers in the rest of the world. For the most part, in the Nordic countries, they seem to be sending a lot less people to prison. Same for Iceland and Greenland. But then again, when it's like freezing cold outside, it's kind of hard to do bad things. This is really strange just to randomly have Bermuda on the map. Shouldn't technically Australia be the biggest though? Since 100% of their population is basically in a giant prison colony. Like, yeah, the US might have over 2 million people in jail, but that still doesn't compare to all the Aussies over here locked up. What the hell is going on in Taiwan? Why does Taiwan have such high prison population? Considering it's a tiny island off of Asia, it's like matching up with a lot of these European countries. And they only have 23 million people living in it compared to South Korea's 50 million and Japan's over 100 million. Hong Kong also is kind of big for their size. Minimum number of paid leave days by country. Once again, USA not looking that great because employers aren't required to provide a single day of paid leave compared to the 18 different countries which require a minimum of 20 paid leave days. Mexico's got at least 6 over us. Then there's the huge outliers like Austria, France, Luxembourg, Denmark, and Sweden over 25. That's a whole month. I'm guessing this is for both paid sick and paid vacation. I guess it doesn't really matter, you could use both. And then there's certain countries like Slovakia where they give you 20 and then 5 additional days if you're more than 33 years old. Let's not gloss over the biggest thing here. The African country of the Ivory Coast, even they're doing better than the USA? Or do we have someone here with flag dyslexia just like me? Everyone who has immigrated to the United States starting in the 1820s, we have a lot coming from France, Germany. We've got Canada and Mexico going, you know, kind of a little bit, but they're really flowing in from Western Europe at this point. From China, even a little bit in the 1860s. We have a civil war going on, but that didn't really stop the flow here at all. Whoa, Canada really bursts up here. I wonder if something bad was happening in Canada where they're like, maybe we should get out of here. We have the Italians coming in, the Polish, a lot of Eastern Europeans. Oh, a ton of Russians really happening in the 1900s, and this wasn't even during like the Russian Revolution or anything was going on. We've got Turkey now flowing in, Japan, a little bit from India, but China's kind of slowed down a bit, and we have most of the migration, I think, coming out of North America now in the 1930s. So the Depression hits, and people are like, hold on, maybe we shouldn't go to America anymore. These people have dust everywhere, and everyone's poor. Out of World War II, though, things get better. People from Latin America who already made their journey, or their ancestors made their journey, now moving north. Some from Africa, finally. Not much immigration from Australia or New Zealand, though, interestingly enough. Same for like the Nordic lands. That really says a lot, I think. Wow, and it's just still flowing in. By 2010, it's like explosions, fireworks happening every day. Watch Ireland when they ran out of potatoes. Like, boom, they just start really flowing in, even up with the way bigger countries. What each state does best, I've seen a lot of maps like this, but there's always usually a new fact to each state. Colorado considered the least obese, while Wyoming has the lowest rate of syphilis. Well, that's a nice thing to be good at. Montana with the longest cat lifespans, supposedly. They get lost in the mountains, and yeah, I'm sure they're still out there, little Billy. Cat definitely didn't get eaten by a hawk immediately. Bicycle friendliness, how do you even measure that? But okay, Washington. Most wind energy out of Texas, didn't expect that. Not surprised at all that Alaska has the most pilots per capita. I mean, that's the only way to get to Alaska is usually through the plane. Well, I mean, it's not the only way, but you know what I'm saying. It's our cargo hub state. Hawaii with the least likely to collide with a deer. You don't say. Arkansas supposedly has the most dogs. Missouri with the best trails. Iowa with the lowest divorce rate. Of course, Wisconsin loves their cheese. Okay, I don't even really know how real this is. Here's the exodus from Texas between 2014 and 2019. I think things have changed as of the last 3 years, though. But as you can see, a lot of people were leaving, mostly to, it looks like, California. Now, they're not going to specific cities. I don't think they're all going to the middle of California. Seems like a lot are just going to their neighbors to the north, their rival Oklahoma, a lot to Washington as well, then Colorado, Florida, somewhere in that order. Now I just really want to see a version of this map from California. If you thought this was wild, you just wait. Here's a diagram showing the 50 states and what state they're moving to, though. Here is California. They're mostly moving to Texas. The big ones seem to be Texas, Nevada, and Washington. Basically the no state income tax places. This is strange. I wish they used like an actual map. It'd been fascinating just because obviously this is in alphabetical order. Your population is way more likely to move to like a neighboring state. It'd be really cool to see that on an actual map. The overall probability of ending your turn on a specific square in Monopoly. So because you have to use 2 dice in this game, I wonder how much that has an impact, or if this is really just taking into account the chance and community chess cards. Obviously the highest on the board is jail at almost 6%. There's many ways you can go to prison in this game, and then of course you can't always get out of prison, so that's another problem. But if you're looking for the best property to buy, everyone knows it's the orange ones, and then I think the pink is next up. Well, specifically this pink one, 2.77% chance compared to obviously the light blues and browns. Actually, wait, no, I think maybe this red is best with 3.26. You're always taking a risk when you try to go after a boardwalk. I mean, the percentage isn't that bad. I mean, you know, at least you'll probably kill them if you have a hotel on it. It's weird, you can literally never end a turn on this square because it sends you to jail. 2-hour drive times from the Tokyo area. So starting in Tokyo, it'd take you 2 hours to get to these outskirts. Now this is drive time as well. I don't know how much this has like an impact on public transit. Is this including public transit? I don't think so. I think this is literally driving. Interesting that it takes you almost 20 hours to get to this southernmost tip. And I'm just going to assume they have to drive through a lot more highly populated areas, as well as like it's more difficult. That probably makes it a little more difficult to drive there. Comparing that to the north here. Maybe there's less people, but also it's not further away either. I don't know. I'm assuming if you were to take a train, it's going to be a little bit better. Those Japanese bullet trains are crazy. Comparing the Titanic to a modern cruise ship. As you can see, cruise ships are massive. They're kind of like floating islands. This was built in 2018, the Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas. It's over 1,000 feet, where the Titanic was like 882 feet. The iceberg that sank the Titanic is only 400. And then here's a school bus and an airplane for comparison. The Titanic could have over 2,000 passengers and almost 1,000 crew, but that's still nothing compared to this cruise ship with almost 7,000 passengers and over 2,000 crew. When the Titanic was built in 1912, it was the largest passenger ship in the world, and now this Royal Caribbean is just destroying it. Now let's do the real test, the one that everyone wants to see. Have this Royal Caribbean crash into the iceberg. Let's see how much better it fares. Electricity production by biggest source. So in Central Europe, in places like Germany, Poland, and Czech Republic, they all out here using a lot of coal. So are places like Serbia, Bulgaria, and Bosnia, though. Then we have the red countries like the United Kingdom, Ireland, and the Netherlands. They're using that gas, which Russia, Belarus, Italy, Turkey, Greece, and Spain and Portugal all use too. There are a few places though that are mostly running off hydro, like Romania, Albania, Switzerland, and Austria. Then a few Nordic countries like Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. Weird to see only Denmark and Lithuania running off of wind. But then again, like having wind as your biggest source is probably crazy. Wind is just that extra spice on top of it all. Finally, the one that everyone seems to be talking about, nuclear in the purple countries. So France, Belgium, and even Ukraine. I mean, if this country got over their fears of nuclear, then I think anyone can. Or maybe they just don't have a choice, I don't know. What the hell could Luxembourg be running off of? It just says other renewables. What else is there besides these? It seems to be biomass and waste. I don't even know you could do that sort of thing. Mexico has a huge water problem. So on the left, we can see the share of population with access to safely managed drinking water, and then the x-axis is showing us the year down this way. So strangely, this country has been almost on a completely straight line for the last 2 decades. decades. Maybe they started at 39% and they've moved up to like 43. That seems to be kind of a problem, considering like that's not even half your population. And then the Congo have started to pass them up. Latin America and the Caribbean haven't really moved much either, but they were starting at like 72%. That is a lot better than 40. And then Brazil is making their way all the way to 90. They've really made a huge stride as of the last like 10 years. I mean, a lot of people forget that Mexico is pretty arid, kind of a giant desert, and there's over 100 million people living here, so that's kind of an issue. And big thanks to this month's supporters:
LuxembourgLover,
Alfonso M6,
AryanAfterHours,
Drew's Argentinian grandpa,
Barnsky W,
McBlorf,
istoledrewspetdog,
iLoveMarx, Majestic Unicorn,
Max Cooper,
RyeThePie,
Why Am I Doing This,
Drew's Arab Sugar Daddy,
Krombopulos
Mimoshiki,
Michael,
Louise,
Canadian
Adam
Union,
Stillerman,
Alex Whitley is Mega Chad,
aPhatNarwhal,
Corey,
Philipp RF,
Robert
ortin
E,
5610,
and Sussy Muliati.